Alright, here we go. I'm going to help you guys out with some of the information for Unit 1. So if you're confused about these exercises, 1, 2, and 3, which is where you're supposed to do, and 4, just listen to this video. Okay, so what they're telling you up here is about the staff, and that's where the music notes go, and I've told you guys that before. And then you see music notes on the staff. They can be on the line, like how this one is on a line, or they can be on a space, like how this one is obviously on a space. Now, how am I saying this is on a line? Look, you can see a line cutting right through it, okay? And then if a note is on a space, there's nothing, it's just openness in it, okay? So it's on a space. So now an easy way or a quick way to help us figure out what the notes are is by knowing how to identify the lines and spaces. So we start counting from the bottom, and that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, okay? And you can see the notes on those lines, okay? And then same thing for the spaces. We count from the bottom, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay, so if I was to look at this note, let's say, and let's say somebody asked me what line is that on, I would start counting from the bottom, which is basically what they're saying here. Count from the bottom to the top. So this is the first line, this is number 1, and then this is line number 2, so that is on line 2. Okay, and then you do the same thing for the spaces. What if I wanted to know what that one is? Start from the bottom of the staff. This is space number 1. Oh, there it is, so space 1. Now, you already know this, but notes that are higher on the staff are going to be more towards the top. Okay, these are higher notes that are up here. Okay, but notes that are lower are going to be more towards the bottom. Okay, so that's all you need to know there. Here you're connecting the dots, so from this dot to this dot to this dot, and so on, and you're going to end up drawing a staff by the time that that's over. For number 2, you're marking an X on the following locations. So let's look at our first example. They're asking you for line number 3. So where do you start counting from? The bottom or the top? I hope you said the bottom. So line number 1, line number 2, and then here we are, line number 3, and they put an X on that line. Be specific whether it's a line or a space. Let's look at this one, space number 2. Okay, so we start from the bottom is what you guys keep on saying. And this is space number 1 in between the lines, and this is space number 2. So let me make sure I put my X right there in the space. Okay, and you keep doing that. For number 3, now instead of putting X's, you're putting a whole note. So line number 1, I'm counting from the bottom. That would be this very first line. Okay, and you do the same thing. And then for number 4, you're going to look at the second note, which we did this when we were doing solfege practice worksheet, and you're going to determine whether that note is higher or lower than the note that comes before it. So we can see here that this first note is on the second space, and look, it looks like it's one step higher, so they put H for higher. So now let's look at our first note here, and then we see where that is. Look at our next note. Does that look like it's higher or lower than the first note? To me, that looks like it's way lower. So we'd put an L for lower. Okay. Continue to do this, and then pause here so that you can go ahead and finish up this first page, and then come back so I can help you with Unit 2. Alright, so Unit 2 is talking about first the treble clef. Okay, now the clefs are the symbols that happen in the front of the staff, and basically what it tells you is that these clefs determine exactly what letter name is assigned to each line or space. Now, we've been doing solfege for each line or space, and that is correct, but there are also letter names that are assigned to each line and space as well. So today, erase do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do from your mind, and today we're going to be using the musical alphabet instead. So what they show you here using the piano is that the musical alphabet only uses A through G. Okay, now, so we don't have any H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, or Z. Instead, this just repeats itself and goes on forever, for as long as the piano goes on. Okay, so there are sayings to help you memorize the order of those letters for the treble clef. We look at line notes first, and the saying to help you memorize the order of that is every good boy does fine. So line number 1 is E for every. Line number 2, any note on that line is going to be a G for good. Any note on line number 3 is going to be a B for boy. Any note on line number 4 is a D for does. And any note on line number 5 is an F for fine. And then a very easy way to remember your space notes is that if you look at them in order from bottom to top, they spell the word face. So F is the first space, A is the second space, C is the third space, and E is the fourth space. Okay, so you can continue looking at it on your own. Okay, looking at lesson number 2, your first exercise is drawing the treble clef, and here they show it to you in 2 motions. So the first thing you're going to do is trace the swirly S looking motion, and then the next thing you're going to do is just go down and trace what looks like a stem. So then you're going to go ahead and repeat that and do that 1, 2, 3, 4 more times. Alright, so now number 2, pause me at any time, by the way, if you need to stop and actually do the assignment and then come back. That's probably a good idea. So for number 2, what you're going to do is you're actually going to find the note names for each of these notes. Okay? And you're going to use capital letters to write those out. So if we see this first note is on space number 1, 2, 3, I'm going to look up here, or I can even look up here and find the note that is on space number 1, 2, 3. So here are spaces. Space number 1, number 2, number 3. Oh look, that's a C. And that's how this ended up being a C down here. Okay? Alright, let me try the same thing for this one. So this is on line number 1, line number 2. So let me look at line notes. And this is line number 1, this is line number 2, and that is a G. So that would be a G. Okay, and then you should be able to do the rest from there on. So use this as your key. Okay? Alright, so now number 3. Sorry, I had to get another worksheet because that one was cut off. So number 3, they do the opposite now. You have the letter here now.